I'm going to bring this redistricting board meeting to order. It's November 30th. My name is Rich Johnson. I'm the chair. Before I do a roll call, what I want to do tonight is I want to call and basically name each board member's name and also the county commissioner's name and district that appointed them to this board. The board member can wave their hands to the audience presented here, and also the people that are also viewing this. So those watching online can also understand who we are and who appointed us. So I'll start myself. I'm Rich Johnson, chair, who was appointed by County Commissioner President Randy Guy at large to this board of redistricting. To my far left is Matt Bergen, vice chair, who was appointed by County Commissioner Eric Colvin, District 1, to this board of redistricting. To my immediate left is Dr. Patricia Richardson, who was appointed by County Commissioner Mike Hewitt, District 2, to this board of redistricting. To my immediate right is Paul Thompson, who is appointed by County Commissioner Tom Morgan, District 4, to this board of redistricting. And to my far right is Lance Johnson, who is appointed by County Commissioner John O'Connor, District 3, to this board of redistricting. Now, since we do Robert's Rules of Order,
no.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. You're out of order, okay? So,
as your legal counsel, I'm advising you, you do not follow Robert's rules. On the very first meeting we had, we gave you the rules of order for St. Mary's County.
You're right here. You signed this document. All boards.
What document's title, sir?
It's the Governance Committee of St. Mary's County. All boards.
I'm sorry, sir. Repeat that again.
Look.
Read the title, sir. If you're going to use that, then read the title.
Rules.
Do not put
all boards and commissions do Robert's Rule. Robert's Rule.
Speak about who's out of order. Read the title of that.
I'm telling you, this is Robert's Rule of Order.
Mr.
Based
Johnson.
on what, sir? Based on what? Read what you believe is from the Robert's Rules of Order.
All boards and commissions of St. Mary's County use Robert's Rule of Order.
Where do you read
And this
that from?
is a board.
Where do you read that from, sir?
That's right here.
What is the title of that, sir?
Look at this, Parliamentary Authority, Article 8.
From what?
From what? From this pub. And all.
What is that document? Can you tell me what that document is?
Tell me all.
What is the document you're reading from?
You're out of order. You're out of order. Please sit down.
If you're going to say that St. Mary's County boards use Robert's Rules of Order and you're going to read from something that I have signed, I'm asking you to tell me the title.
Well, you have the title. You have this pub. I gave it to Mr. Heiser, too.
Mr. Johnson, if I could direct your attention, though, we did on the initial matter or things that we passed out on our first part of that packet was a statement of the rules of order for St. Mary's County boards and commissions. Those are the rules that do govern this particular board that we set on at that first night and that the prior county attorney, George Sparling, signed off on when they were implemented after a vote of the Board of County Commissioners back in 2011. I printed off an extra copy as well. You could pass that along.
Absolutely.
And you're reading from a 457B governance committee that regulates how that specific board, which is set up to view county employees' retirement, does things.
Well, all the other boards in this county and
do
commissions.
not follow Robert's rules. The St. Mary's County Commissioners have never adopted Robert's rules.
Okay, I'm doing this meeting according to Robert's Rule of Order. You can sit down.
Well, I'm telling you as your legal counsel, that's not the way it's done.
I'm following Robert's rules.
Fine. You're going to call Robert's rules and call Robert's rules as to small boards, which is what we use then, if that's what you want to do, because Robert's rules are made for Parliament. I see 5 people here, so we're going to go by Robert's rules for small boards, which means by practice, the chairman does not make motions. That's for the rest of these 4 people to do.
Actually, in Robert's rule, it says the president or chair is a member of the voting body. He or she has exactly the same rights and privileges as every other member has, including right to have motion, to speak in debate, and to vote on all questions.
Sir, why are you so upset about something?
I'm not upset. You're the one that keeps coming up to here and trying to run this meeting.
Saying things that are not true.
All right, the meeting is still going on, so I also have a right to motion, okay? So we're going to go and approve the current agenda. So since I do have the right of motion, the chair motions to approve the agenda as stated.
I Again, that's something that chairs in St. Mary's County have customarily never done.
But-
If you want to read Robert's rules for small boards.
I read it right here. I read it right here. It's reference to Robert's rules.
Of small boards.
Small boards, we got 5 people.
May I make a motion?
No, you're out of order. You're out of order. So I'm proving,
You don't know what you're talking about.
chair motions to approve the current agenda as stated. Do I hear a second? So no one's going to approve the agenda? I'm waiting. No one's going to approve the agenda.
For the sake of completing the tasks that we're here to do, may I make the motion to
You
approve
can
the
motion
agenda?
if you want.
So we can keep things moving. So I'd like to motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes carry. Now we have the minutes we have to go over. And did you want to do an overall?
I move to approve the redistricting board minutes of October 18th, 2021 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries for the minutes.
I'm going to do the others separately because of a technical issue. So I move to approve the redistricting board public hearing minutes of November 8th as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
I move to approve the redistricting board public hearing minutes of November 10th, 2021 as presented.
Do I hear a
Second.
second? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it.
I move to approve the redistricting board public hearing minutes of November 16th, 2021 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
I move to approve the redistricting board public hearing minutes of November 18th, 2021 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes carry.
I move to approve the redistricting board public hearing minutes of November 23rd, 2021 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay. Let's get into the pub. Eric, pull up the pub of the board, how they were created. You have it up? Okay. All right, so this is the document that established the board. We had various tasks to do. The first thing the county commissioners had to do is establish 5 members to the board, St. Mary's County. They did that. The redistricting board then convened and organized. They selected a chairman. That was me. We also have a vice chair, which is Matt. The redistricting board shall establish boundaries in all 4 commissioner districts, St. Mary's County, and conform as all apply all federal. And what we first did when we used the current census data in the current map that Eric did, and it was above the 10% requirement. So we all generated our own maps. Eric made access so we could do our own maps. And right near when we were getting ready to do a meeting and pick a map, Eric found that anomaly that for 11 years there was an issue with the border of District 4 and District 1. And once he recomputed those numbers of the boundaries, it was way above the average in District 4. It was like 7,641 people above the average. Then we had to do our maps again. Then we had a vote. We had a vote on the 18th of October. It had no caveats. It was an up and down vote. You either liked it or you didn't like it. And basically we got 3 yays for Matt's map and 2 nays for Matt's map. And the motion carried, which became the board's map. And then after that, we did a public forum where we had 5 public forums. We had an extra one. Legally, we only had to do 4, one for each district. And then the 5th one was actually held here because they were concerned about COVID. So Eric, if you can, well, actually, let me just talk to the, when you have a public forum, I'm really not allowed to talk to the people because they're supposed to have their time to talk. Now, sometimes they do give up their time to talk to me, and it was like maybe 1 or 2 that did that. So now what I'm going to do is basically answer their questions because we're transparent. So the first public forum was at the Valley Firehouse. It was on the 8th of, the 8th of November. There was about 25 people in the audience. The sign-in sheet only had 4 people, so that was only the people that were actually going to talk. So apparently the other people didn't sign that sheet. So, but I did see Eric Colvin in there. He's District 1 County Commissioner. I mean, he's a citizen too. He was seeing what we were doing. So anyway, so we had 4 speakers. The current YouTube views, and why I'm mentioning that, at the time after that meeting, there was 84 views. So that's important. So of the 4 people that were going to, or did speak, there was a Miss Janice Wathauer, a Miss Alfreda Mathis, that's actually the sister of Janice, Kurt Engel, and Mr. Brandon Russell. Now, I saw Brandon, I had never met this guy before, and he showed up in every other meeting, so it didn't take much work to find out who Mr. Brandon Russell is. If you look on the internet, he's the 2nd vice chair, the Communications Committee chair of the Democratic Central Committee. He
Mr.
also
Chair.
has a...
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
You're out of order. You're out of order.
I don't believe I am. I'd like to make a motion.
You're out of order. I'm talking, the chair has the floor. You're out of order. So I'm talking about all of the different forums. Now, he also has a webpage called this Skipjack Current, where he booked people to come to all these meetings and he gave them NAACP talking points. And if you don't believe me, I have his schedule. So anyway, he actually scheduled Janice that day. Let's see here, who did he book on that day? All right.
I'd like to make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
No.
Second.
No, chair has the floor.
Second.
Chair has the floor. You're out of order.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
You're out of order.
Second.
You're out of order. The chair has the floor. Chair runs the meeting. Do you understand the rules? You apparently don't. Okay? So let's see who you booked that day.
Old business.
So he had Brandon Russ was going to talk. He had-
Beyond the agenda.
I'm talking about the public forum.
You're going beyond what happened.
You're going to review the guidelines. You've reviewed the guidelines.
I want to talk, I'm answering the people's questions when they came up.
Is that in the agenda?
I'm talking, we went to the public forum?
Agenda?
Yes, it is.
Where?
I'm going, did I talk to each one already? Did I talk to each one already?
The agenda states old business. Richard Johnson, review of...
This is old business. What do you call this?
That's A. Well, that's what you've just done.
What do you call this?
Board guidelines. That's what that is, showing up there.
Well, I'm going through the public forum, answering questions.
I don't see that on the agenda, sir.
I'm talking to it. The chair has the floor. The chair is running this meeting.
It's not on the agenda.
Well, okay, well, overall, all these public forums were organized by the Democratic Central Committee. I have all the people that were listed in here. It was a low turnout. Yes, yes. So if you don't want me to go over all the public forums, okay. You don't want me to talk about, okay. I mean, we were called horrible things during these things.
So you in turn now want to call other people horrible things?
No, I'm going to tell exactly what the people said. I'm going to answer the questions.
You are now on the B. What is B of the agenda, sir?
B of the agenda? B of the agenda is new business.
New business. Does anybody have a motion?
I move that we move to proposed redistricting map.
Chair has the floor. Chair has the floor. So if you don't want me to go over each public forum and what occurred, then I'm going to have to go to the end then. Chair still has the floor.
there's no problem with reviewing the comments from the public.
He's telling me I can't read the comments.
Hearing it's a public.
Should be concerned.
All right.
There was a motion made. The chair does not retain the floor forever. You're on to B, new business. A motion was made, or a motion was attempted to be made.
Okay, new business.
And a second, could we call for the vote, please,
Motion,
Mr. Chairman?
the chair has the floor. Chair has the floor. The board voted on a map on 18 October 2021. It was an up and down vote with no caveats. You either liked the map presented and voted yay, and did not with a nay. And we had that. We had 3 yays and 2 nays. Okay, motion carried for Matt Bergen's map, now known as the board's map. This map that has been chosen met the board's requirement that is tasked to do. This map was then presented to the public for comment, after which the chair reviewed each and every one who provided comment to the board. The chair observed the narrative of a few trying to disenfranchise over 80,000 registered voters that did not attend the public forum, for they had no issue with the board's map. And this is a great place, because every time we're in this room, the whole county can see what we're doing. They can call in, they can send a video. How many calls did we get? 0. We've been here twice. 0.
Mr. Chairman, you cannot make that assumption.
Oh,
The fact
I
that people-
observed no one calling, and the chair still has the floor. You're out of order.
We're in,
So-
we're in the discussion.
Floor.
Chair has the floor. He runs the meeting. The chair runs the meeting, okay? You may not like it.
Motion made
And seconded.
and seconded.
No, I'm not-
The chair calls for a vote.
No. Chair still has the floor. There are very few individuals who appeared at our public hearings were mostly connected to partisan political purposes, which will be better served in the future in their quest to determine public policy by convincing voters that their message is the better message and winning elections rather than demonstrating uncivil manners in a public hearing. I thank my fellow members for giving successful to their time, intellect, energy, and desire to make their community a better place. The county staff who assisted us, and the county commissioners for bestowing their confidence in our effort. The work for this board is now done. Staff is directed by the chair to forward our proposed map to St. Mary's County Commissioners.
Stop.
The work of this board is
You are
done,
completely
and the
out of
meeting
order,
is adjourned.
sir.
Meeting
Are
adjourned.
completely out of order.
Meeting adjourned.
No,
Meeting
you
adjourned.
cannot do that. There was no vote on the meeting. You cannot adjourn a meeting by yourself, number one.
Can.
You've gone
Yes, you
completely
can.
nuts.
I'm not.
You have gone completely nuts.
I'm not nuts.
And you find this amusing? You find what you were supposed to do,
You're
what you
also
were
out of
tasked
order.
with giving?
You're also out of
I am
order.
not out of order because there was a motion made.
Meeting is adjourned.
No, it is not.
It is.
No, it is not. Has there been a vote?
No.
Has there been a vote to do it? No, there has not, sir. You have lost your mind.
I haven't. That prior map was approved.
Why do you think you took it to public hearing?
We did.
You took it to public hearing to hear what the public
We
said
did.
about it,
And we
and
did.
then you come back and say, should we make any changes to it based on what the public said? Otherwise, this was a total fiction.
No, no.
Yes.
That's the pullback.
Because what you're saying is you don't care what anybody said.
That was an approved vote. That vote still
Then
hangs
take
out
it to the public hearing.
Will you let me even speak?
No, because you're not making sense.
You're out of order.
You've been out of order since you sat there.
You're out of order. Dave, please sit.
This is beyond the pale.
I've
You
put
have a motion
considerable-
and a second, and that's what the chair needs to call.
Yeah, and Rich, please, I've put a considerable amount of work into listening and incorporating everybody's feedback. I'm talking like a time away from my family, late nights, to make adjustments based off community
We
feedback.
have a map that we presented.
That there's confidence in our
We have a
map.
map that we presented. The chair has the
The
floor.
map was a draft.
Draft.
No, it wasn't.
Why are you
Amend the
going
map.
against the rest of the
Purpose
board,
of this
sir?
meeting is to amend the map.
Why do you think your vote counts more than the rest of these 4? Why do you think that?
We had 3 people that voted for that map. We
The
had-
preliminary map, what do you not get about that?
We
It was a map that was
You
presented.
can't be this thick. You really can't. Because it just boggles my mind.
Mr.
You have
Con-
to think this is just funny.
Mr. Johnson, it's the county code that when we voted on before going to public hearing, we voted on a preliminary boundaries and only that. There was never a vote on a final map. That is what is in the county code. That is going to trump, even if we're resorting to Robert's Rules of Orders and a
Robert's
parliamentary
rules,
procedure.
That was a vote. It was an
Even
up and
if we're
down
going to
vote.
resort to that, though, that is not going to trump what the written statute is. There is no way we have a final map at this time. There is no way. And the only way that we're going to have that map proposed and become the law and presented to the Board of County Commissioners on December 14th is if 3 or more people vote to approve it at this meeting or the meeting on the 7th. That is the only way.
That map that was voted upon was 3 yeas, 2 nays. That's a vote. Now, you may not like the vote, but now, when we brought it to the public, we took their input. And in order to pull that vote back, you have to rescind it.
Can't be this stupid.
But Chairman Johnson, what's the purpose of the public input?
Like I said, you have to get enough information to pull that vote back to the floor via rescind. You know what rescind is? You got to pull, that vote's out there. Just because you don't like it, it's still out there.
Well, we're attempting to vote on it right now.
You going to try to rescind it?
We were trying to vote to move to new business.
Well, that vote is still out there, okay? We took the input. I saw what was going on.
And you are preventing further votes from happening right now.
That map was already voted upon on the 18th of October.
I was here.
I
You
know.
understand.
I know.
We voted as a body to present a draft to the public, to seek public input, to come back and make, hence the 90% solution, to make necessary adjustments to bring forth a map that we can vote on as a final product to deliver to the county commissioners. I've put a considerable amount of work into this. The draft, it was referred to as a draft as a reason it was voted on
You're
as a
going to
draft.
disenfranchise 80,000 plus voters.
I'm not
that are
here to
out there.
disenfranchise anybody.
Didn't come here, because they had no issues with that map.
I'm not here to disenfranchise anybody.
Well, you are.
I'm here to follow the process. And if you would let me speak and let me show you what I've put together, I don't think anybody is going to feel as if they're disenfranchised. I haven't even had the opportunity
So
to...
are we going to do another public forum for this new map?
No, that is not the process. Just like...
Are we going to go back and do it all over again?
Just like solidifying a draft as a final product is not the process. Nor will it be the process to go back and hold public forums. But that's why we sought public input to make the appropriate changes, to have a final product that meets the directive, but also takes into consideration concerns and criticisms of the public. That was the whole point of us meeting with the public on 5
you're not going to take a map to the public and say, this is the final version, take it. I don't care what you say.
We are going to make,
You don't understand Robert's rule. The way Robert's...
Don't follow Robert's
Yes,
rules.
we are. All boards and commissions, St. Mary's County, follow Robert's rule.
Sir.
Yes, they do, sir.
Take it from your legal counsel that you have demeaned the whole 5 hearings on this anyway by just calling them the lawyers, but I stood and I took it and ignored it, but it just shows the kind of person you are.
Really?
I think
Yes, it does.
I would really appreciate the opportunity to...
I think each of us would like an opportunity to share what we gained from the public forums. And that would be appropriate under B, proposed redistricting map, and also under 4, redistricting plan discussion. I think we all learned a lot from those public forums, and I think we are anxious to share with the public what we heard, and we certainly read everything carefully, listened to everything carefully.
Well, the lawyers don't even want me to go over what I heard.
Mr. Johnson, if I may, Sharon Ferris, Assistant to the County Commissioners, just provided a copy of the minutes from Monday, October 18th, which we just a few minutes ago voted to approve and accept. In those minutes, the notation made for the motion which was made on October 18th prior to the public hearings was that I make a motion to take this map to the public hearing with the understanding that this is not our final version. It is just a 90% solution that allows the public to provide insight and input as they desire.
And I read that too.
That was my motion,
I read that too, and I read your motion.
and we approved that motion, and that brings
I
us...
want it to mean something else now.
No.
My words mean what they say they mean. That's
No,
not what you do.
that vote prior had no caveats. It was an up and down vote. And again, just because you don't like that vote,
Preliminary map, sir. You cannot be this dense.
It was a
Otherwise,
map.
why would we have these public hearings?
again, you're not going to go and do a public hearing and tell people, hey, this is it. you have to rescind and pull that back for edit.
Just like we do for ordinances.
You know what rescind
have a
is?
proposed
You know what
ordinance,
rescind is?
then we have public hearing.
Do you
and then
understand rescind?
public Hearing the ordinance.
Do you understand rescind? Do you understand rescind?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand what that means? Okay. Do you know what a vote, up and down vote is, no caveats?
A preliminary vote.
No, it was a vote. It was a vote. There was no caveats in that vote.
See if the other 4 members of your board agree with your.
It was an up and down vote. Either you liked the map or you didn't. That's all it was.
Just leave.
No,
We should all just leave because King Richard,
no, not King.
that's what you're acting
No,
like today, sir.
the chair runs the meeting, so I have to run it.
But you're not even letting them make a motion.
To change the map or rescind it?
That's why we're here.
Okay, you won't let me go over each public forum?
So you can call people idiots?
No, I want to read who they are. I want to read who they are, but you don't want me to do that. You don't want me, why don't you want me to do that, Dave?
Mr. Johnson,
It's
I,
not on the agenda, number 1. And number 2, what does it matter?
Didn't I just discuss the other things on the things we had to get
Yes,
done?
But, we give you some leeway because you've just been acting like a complete loon.
I'm following Robert's rules.
But Robert's rules don't apply.
All boards and
You know
commissions,
first.
all boards and commissions in St. Mary's County follow Robert's rules.
They do not, sir, but thank you for telling me my job.
You are not following Robert's rules.
Yes, we are.
I object to exposing members of this board who have worked very hard, members of the public who have attended many meetings, to this discussion. If we have issues amongst ourselves, then we need to take them outside. For now, I have a motion. I am proposing that we move to B, the proposed redistricting map. There was a second. We need to call for the vote and then move on.
We have a map. Not a new map.
A motion and a second, sir. What, do you not believe in democracy anymore?
I do believe, but what map are we presenting here?
I'd like to make a motion to rescind the draft map.
Second.
Robert's rules, you have to vote on it.
Yeah, but problem with Robert's rules,
Oh,
to
my
rescind, no, to rescind, do you understand how to rescind something? Do you understand? There's different versions of Roberts to do that.
What I'd
You would have to get a majority of people to pull that map back.
What I'd really appreciate the opportunity to do is look back retrospectively, show what the public feedback has been to date, show what the map looks like when we take, as we should, the public's feedback into account, and then go from there. And then we can meet the directive and meet the concerns of the public at the same time. We can do our jobs the right way. If I could just show some things that I've put together, if I could just speak on that, I think we can meet the directive that we were given while also maintaining the trust of the folks that have come out to all the public meetings, as well as come out this evening.
So
That's okay.
are we not a board, I wonder? Are we not a board? Because that directive says all boards and commissions in St. Mary's County follow Robert's Rules of Order. So for some reason, this board is special that we don't follow those orders. And this is for all boards and commissions in St. Mary's County. So John, why is this board special that we have our own rules?
this board isn't special, Mr. Chairman.
It's not
I don't
special.
mean to, I
Is it-
don't mean
or
to.
John, is this a board?
I don't mean to get into it. What I'm looking at right now is what I handed you, the Rules of Order for St. Mary's County Boards and Commissions. That was signed, enacted by the county commissioners and signed off on in 2011 by prior county attorney George Sparling, then county commissioner president Francis Jack Russell, and signed on by the then county administrator Susan Sabo. That provides for simplified rules of order for small boards like this one to go on, with simple motions that don't wade into the parliamentary procedure and
So you're
in
telling
depth.
me that this pub doesn't mean anything that was signed by Dave Weiskopf? and-
See, I mean, that's the trouble, because just to bear it all out and be candid, I'm the new guy at the party. People can take one look at me and see I haven't been doing this forever.
Well, this is
But I
June
do,
14, 2019, so this is even
Right.
more recent.
but that's not But Robert's rules are not followed in any of the other boards that I watch in on. This is not the only other board that
I have other examples
that.
from board docs of other boards and commissions that use Robert's rules.
But all I know that I'm looking at is the guidance I was provided and was told is that the rules of order that would govern this redistricting commission were the rules of order that were provided at the start, and those were the rules that we were following up until now.
So,
If I can make another side remark, I made the joke prior to one of these meetings that I think Dr. Richardson asked me for opinion on something, and I glibly responded that I don't have opinions. What I mean by that is when it comes to this board, the map you ultimately arrive at, it doesn't make a difference to me who it favors, what it does.
needs schedule, I understand that.
I just need to make sure that it's going to stand up in court if someone challenges it.
So,
By adding the procedural anomaly of tonight, and by trying to withhold any further action against what seems to be the majority opinion of this board, and in contravention to what I believe are the governing rules of order in this committee, that is the only thing that this board has done to date. The only thing that I'm worried about if this is ever taken to court.
so John, so you're saying that other boards and commissions around here don't use Roberts, or you haven't seen any?
To my observance, no, they haven't.
Okay, the Planning Commission has rules of order in here. That's a commission. Also, bylaws of St. Mary's County Commission for Women also uses Roberts Rule of Order. That's for boards. The Board of Aging here uses Roberts in their bylaws. So,
The
so for-
Animal Control Advisory Board, which I chair, does not. We use the rules of order for St. Mary's County boards and commissions.
And I have watched planning commission meetings. That's one of the 3 boards that we religiously, a member from the county attorney's staff always goes to, that I've been going to the 6 months I've been on the job. I have never seen there something like what I'm seeing tonight. And all I'm saying is that if you try
They
to
do
force
have
this
Roberts
tonight,
Rule for the Planning Commission.
if you try to force this through tonight, some member in this audience who was moved out of their district is going to challenge this plan in court, and it is going to go down. That is the plain, hard truth of it. The board's got a hard task tonight to sit here and figure out what, if any, changes to that preliminary map need to be made. But by spending now almost an even half hour on this,
So the prior vote means nothing.
the prior vote meant that you had a board that you took to the public hearings, that this board had adopted a preliminary board. That was the map that they wanted to solicit public comment on. But it was always, it is written into the county code, and it was further stated explicitly in that motion that was made, that that was not a final map, and that it could be subject to future revision.
Correct, and that's where you do the rescind. So if you get enough information from the public forum that warrants change to that map, then you have to get the people that voted for that map to pull it back to the floor via rescind.
So what you're telling me is that, and I apologize.
And again,
it's-
but you're not going to go to a public forum and tell people, hey, we got a map, it's final. Why would you even have a public forum, correct?
we had a public forum.
No, I'm making it.
Okay.
Why would you even go with that thought of this map was fixed in stone? Why would you go to a public forum for people to give you input if it wasn't going to go anywhere? So what happens is that vote was an up and down vote with no caveats. You either liked the map or you didn't. Now, we brought that map to the public.
But it was a vote with caveats. We read that in the motion.
Not prior to that. No, when we brought it when Matt did his motion, he said 90% of whatever, which doesn't really mean much. But he also said it wasn't the final version, which is true and false. When I say true and false is that vote is still out there. Now, via rescind, you can pull that back to edit that map if we get enough information from the forum that warrants such change. So if you're going to change this map, you have to pull it back.
So, Mr. Johnston, if I'm following, and I apologize, I'm going to defer to you on expertise of Robert's rules because I just don't know it. It's not what I was trained in. It's not what I've seen doing. But if I'm following you right, of those 3 members who voted for the board, yourself, Lance Johnson, and Mr. Bergen, you need 2 of them to vote tonight to rescind
You
it.
would have to get the winning vote members to agree. And since I really can do a motion if I want to, all 3 of us could motion to pull that back
All right.
for rescind.
So what I'm going to do just to try and move this along, see if this is a quick
but
way
John,
to solve it, is
John.
Mr. Bergen has made a motion to rescind.
And he wants the motion to pull it back. He has to get the agreement of the other winning vote members to pull it back for edit.
Mr. Johnson, would you second that motion just to move things along and get on with the
I
business of
like
tonight?
the map, that's why I voted for the map, so I don't want to pull it back.
The other Mr. Johnson.
Oh, too many Johnsons.
What are we doing with this map? Are we looking to add, just looking at it, or what?
Eric, would you be so kind as to skip to the map that reflects community input that I've been working on?
These aren't the rules.
The motion to reconsider only takes one. That was Mr. Bergman. These are our rules that we
You can
follow.
motion, any of us could motion to rescind, but you have to get the agreement of the other winning vote members.
According to our rules. Our
You can't-
rule says only one.
One what? To
So-
approve?
Page 3, sir.
So
Approve
Lance,
or motion?
It says motion for reconsideration. Okay?
Correct. Any of the winning vote members can do a motion, and he used his right of that, and he has the right to do that. But he's got to get the agreement of both the other winning vote members to
Any
go.
other member may second the motion to reconsider. It
Of
says
the
a
winning
motion to
vote
reconsider
members.
may be made by a member who voted in the majority.
Of the winning vote members have to agree.
Motion, that was him. And we're just doing this to humor you, because I don't think anybody else, or even these 4 people, believe that we have to do this, because it was a preliminary map. But to humor the chair, this is what we're going to do. So he, who was
A winning vote member.
has made a motion. It was seconded by any other member pursuant to our rules. So, Mr. Chairman, will you do your job and call?
I am doing my job. The winning vote members have to agree to that.
Please. I've just read you the rules, and you.
Of the winning vote members that voted for the map,
That's not the rules, sir.
you have to get agreement from the other winning vote members.
Sir, I
Yes, you
just
do.
read you the rule. Now you're not following our rules. Why are you being this obtuse? Because you're not getting your way?
No.
Because you fear you're now in the minority? I mean, you have made a mockery of this, sir.
No, I'm trying not to disenfranchise the 80,000 plus voters that didn't come because they didn't have a problem.
This is the worst thing I have ever seen in county government,
so
and it's you.
where I'm trying to take this. Eric, could you bring up so if you could bring up the chart that shows feedback, the main areas of concern. So when the public came out and they provided their concerns and their critiques, all of which were written down. So at the end of every public forum, I would review the feedback that we got from every individual that spoke. And again, thank you to everybody that came out and provided that feedback. It was honestly and genuinely the most important data point in developing a map. Whereas before we had numbers, we had total population to go off of with the directive of obtaining balance. But it was through the public forums that we had the opportunity to get input from the community and how they would be impacted by the draft map. So these were the major categories. As you can see, by far the biggest concern was splitting Great Mills and Lexington Park. Next on the list in terms of quantity of feedback and concern, extending 235 North, extending District 4 up 235 North would dilute the minority and Democratic vote, and it's not keeping communities of interest together. Another concern was because of the work that was done, an unnecessary number of citizens were impacted, the quantity of citizens. And then last but certainly not least, one individual, whereas Chestnut Ridge was moved from District 1 to District 2, one individual said, hey, I speak for Chestnut Ridge, we'd like to stay in District 1. So, Eric, if you would be so kind. So what I would do was every night after the public forum, I would go back and make edits to the draft map, which was my initial draft. I would make edits that were reflective of the people that I'd listened to that evening before. After every one of those meetings. So then, After the fifth one, and I made those adjustments. So if you look, with respect to, all right, the first concern is the splitting of Great Mills and Lexington Park. So, there's an abundance of concern with that. As you see, that the integrity of that community has remained intact. Then the second biggest concern was the extension of District 4 up 235 North. So I stopped it where the original map is. It did not extend it past where the current map goes. The third was population impacted. We were at about 28K. This map, we cut that by more than half. This total impacted for this map is 13,923. And then lastly, Chestnut Ridge was moved back to District 1 as that one member of the community had requested. So what I'd like as a board, and also, and equally as important, Eric, could you show the population balance? So a lot of effort, if you have that, yeah, okay. So a lot of effort was put in to generating a map that, one, met the directive, but also was reflective of the concerns and the criticisms of people that took the time to come out. Is it perfect? I don't think there's such a thing, but has a lot of work gone into it. Do I think it's something that we can all get behind, both people sitting on this side of this bench as well as that side of the bench? I truly believe so. And all I'm asking, and we can further refine this, like I said, if I didn't bring my sleeping bag, but if we need to go into precincts, and if we want to go to that level of detail, I'm more than happy to. The balance that's been achieved allows us to make further adjustments and still meet the directive of the population tolerance amongst districts. Rich,
Do you have the stats on this?
I do. Are you talking about the?
10% requirement.
Yes, there.
Well, I know, but
He can hover.
what are the numbers?
He can hover. So 27,431, 28,9, 28,823,
All right.
28,804. Well within tolerance.
Well, I know, but I want to see what it really is in numbers.
While you're doing that, I wanted to just say that I saw the same major themes that Matt did, and there was strong interest for keeping community of interest together, and that term was used often. I thought from that of my experience working with Great Mills High School as a community of interest, and I started thinking about what does make a community. It's not just the interests that bring the people together. I think about Great Mills High School. It was established in 1929. It has many years of ups and downs, very high highs, very low lows. And the people at that school, that includes their families, their community members, their faculty, their staff, all the support teams that work with them, are together when it's time to celebrate something that's very exciting and wonderful. And they're also together when there's a horrible tragedy or a great loss, and they lean on each other's shoulders. So I thought more and more about that. I then thought about some of the things that a community of interest is able to produce when you have that kind of support. And I thought about the different gifts that Great Mills High School and the community have given us. They have produced master tradespeople that work in our homes, in our businesses, artists and musicians, Olympians, senators, delegates, judges, a sheriff, county commissioners, a nationally recognized college basketball coach, I think you all know who that is, community leaders who give their time generously and often make personal sacrifices to serve the people in need throughout the community. At this school, they use those talents and that dedication to really form a community. And so I extend that to the community of Great Mills and Lexington Park. And it certainly, not that I had much convincing to be done, but it certainly reinforced that those are communities that need to stay together. The second theme I heard was a request to minimize the number of people who would change commissioner districts. And there's a double reason here. Give the commissioner who represents that district a reasonable chance of success in representing all of the various interests. The third major theme I heard was moving 2 smaller precincts that include many of the minority constituents from where they were back into District 4. And I also want to thank the people who came out. Some of you were here every forum, and that meant a lot to me. I know that in the media world, that often people will say that one person who takes the time to send a letter to the editor represents many, many more people who just didn't get around to it. So I looked at people who came to the forums, and I feel that each of you represented many people who would like to have been there, but for whatever reason weren't able to. And I want you to know that we are trying to make the best decisions we can. We depended heavily on your input. You pointed out some things that we just need to hear again, and you pointed out some things that we didn't know or that we hadn't heard. This was, for each of us, our first time doing this, and we knew that going in, but our goal was to serve the best interests of St. Mary's County, and with your input, it looks like we may be able to do that.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Excuse me, ma'am, I'm sorry. It is not a public forum. I apologize, but if you could please
However,
sit.
the Commission for Women has been raised.
He's telling you not to. Please sit
And I am the chair of the Commission for Women. So I want to address that.
No, ma'am, it is not the time. You can write a letter to the editor about his actions or whatever you want.
Thank you, ma'am. My apologies.
So this map would be an edit to the prior map for rescind. We still haven't pulled it back yet.
So if I recall correctly,
I mean, you got good numbers on that map. You're like 0.06% to 5.08 for population.
so the motion was made to rescind the draft so as to finalize a new one. It is your opinion that only you or Lance can second that motion? Is
We are
that-
the winning vote members.
But it is the opinion of legal counsel that any member of the board, Lance, I hate to put you on the spot. Do you wish to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. So the motion passes, or goes to the vote, I'm sorry, we go to a vote.
Chairman has to call for a vote.
Yeah, all those in favor of, say aye to pull the map back, say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Nay. The ayes have it.
So now we've got a clean slate. Again, this map meets the directive put in front of us, but it also reflects everybody that took their time to come out. We can deep dive this. We can get into precincts. We can get into balanced population. But I believe that this is a better product and closer to something that we want our names attached to.
Well, do I hear a motion to send this map to the county? Or,
Do we need to deep dive? We can ask Eric. Eric, you can get in the weeds with this, correct?
If I can butt in and give just a little bit of guidance on what I would suggest the steps from here be, is we do need not necessarily exactly final map decided upon tonight. What I do need are the broad contours, probably the geographical boundaries of that tonight. The deadline that I am up against right now is in 48 hours. We have to have a draft redistricting map and a draft redistricting plan put up on board docs to be voted upon for consideration, with maybe some minor edits to it that we would be able to do in real time next Tuesday on December 7th. What I need right now is the broad plan. As close to definite of that plan as the best, and then I also need, not to be overlooked, is each member who votes in favor of the concept draft plan that we're proceeding to, what your rationale for doing so is, so we can throw some type of redistricting plan together and have that on board docs for you all to consider next week for a final vote.
So is the floor open for discussion at this point on the map?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you turn on the precinct overlay, please? So one of the common complaints we also got in the meetings was that we broke apart a lot of precincts. We had early discussions that, as far as we knew, that was okay, that we were allowed to do that. We were working off census blocks. But the community feedback was definitely very strong that when we did that, they felt like we were breaking up their community. There's a couple areas of interest that I guess I'm kind of wondering if anyone has thoughts on. Basically, precincts 6002, 6003, and 6004 are all being broken up. Is there any thought to possibly taking the changes from one and swapping them to another, to maybe move all of 6002, 6002, or 6004 into District 3? We don't have to, it's just a point to consider.
So for instance, for 6002, it kind of dissects where those numeric numbers are. You're saying bring that to the right where it aligns, so that blue right extent, and then maybe takes 6004
Back.
to the left where it butts up against that. Eric, would you be able to make that change and see what the impact is? Thanks, sir. That's a It's nice everybody can see firsthand how tedious this can get when the further in you scroll, and how manipulated one section impacts the others. So it bumps 3 up a little bit to 29,539. Still within tolerance. And was that the only dissected precinct?
I believe
No,
06,
Yeah.
003 is divided as well.
So that one's going to be difficult, just because the density of the District 2 portion of 06003, how dense that is on. I mean, we can certainly look at the impact. But then so that's getting into the Wildwood area.
I guess this would not be Wildwood. This would be up to the airport.
Okay, Airport View Drive.
Right. So that would be, it looked like it'd maybe be about 1,000 people.
I believe I can see what that would be without actually making the change, so.
So,
I believe it would be
Okay.
that number. 2,239 people.
correct me if I'm mistaken, but when we brought the election folks in, they said they're going to choose precincts as they see fit. This doesn't have an impact on their allotment of the distribution of precincts amongst the 4 commissioner districts. We might have the tolerance in there to do it. We'll see what the impact is.
This is only based on just the feedback of people did not like us breaking up districts. The number we had broken up in the prior map was brought up multiple times, and I just wanted to go through looking at the impact of this. I think what's happening in 6003 is probably too much.
But we've decreased it from, what was it? Was it 5? What was on the draft? I believe 5 impacted this. This brings it to 1.
I will point out 2 other smaller areas. I don't know if this was your intention or not. This precinct here, 8010.
That was intentional. That is that's pretty densely populated. So when I'm by that, with the 2's absorption of that portion of 4, that's where we gained our our population balance. And I tried to move this blue section to 4, but it takes it out of tolerance. It's densely populated. So I did extend 4 slightly. I increased 4 slightly beyond the past sort of the district boundary line, if you will. I extended 4 out a little bit, but if I tried, when I got into moving those, the impact was too great.
So that is one precinct that is currently split. The other, just barely, is a few properties here in Leonardtown, I think, once the map refreshes. It would appear that these 2 blocks are part of 03003.
Paul, would you want 1 to extend to absorb 11 and 13, or?
I guess I'm just torn because I don't know if I'm taking people out of Leonardtown that may be happy where they are.
So, as you said, right, I think we could potentially collectively agree that we're very close. We have the ability, we have a 99% solution, and we have the ability to spend some more time and thought and discussion on these minor little adjustments.
I agree. I think if you come out of today adopting a working draft with the understanding that if further revisions are going to be made to it next week, that they've got to be able to be made on the fly, just as we did in the last cases, that's probably all we're capable of accomplishing next meeting. But that, I think, would still put us on a timetable where we could get things accomplished. If the board feels confident they're close enough tonight, that one more working session would accomplish it and arrive at a final map.
Anybody thoughts?
What's the total numbers on it now with all these edits?
$28,804.
Hold on. Okay. 28,184. Third one. Last one, 27431, 234. Okay. That's my go. Two 804. 28. Hold on. 29.
I guess my simple goal is I would have loved to achieve a description of what we did by, we could be almost like the old map was in 2012 where we moved 3 precincts and that was it. Unfortunately, looking at, once we start zooming in, I don't think the map itself really supports doing that. There's just, the census blocks don't always agree with the truth on the ground as far as where people live and what they would associate with. So in light of that, I don't even know if we need to, I mean, we can even undo the changes to 6002, 6002 if we want to just roll it back to the way it was before. I don't know what we're really, I mean, it's one less precinct that we're breaking up, but I guess in the fact that there's going to still be several others, though minor, I just don't know if I'm accomplishing what I was thinking of when I started this discussion.
All right, percent-wise is population 2.15 to 7.13%. 3 and 4, 3 has positive 1,050, where 4 is short 1,059. So, unless you want to, I mean, you're still under the 10% requirement, but 3 and 4 are about, one has more, one has less. Actually, 4 has less.
I'm actually, now that, I mean, having looked at this and drilled down a little bit, I'm probably more comfortable moving it back to where it was.
Than how it was
How you initially.
Okay, no worries.
Initially had it.
Yeah, I don't like this, the new, I mean, to be honest with you, if I look at the current map, the new map looks, if we're talking for the sake of gerrymandering, it looks like we're trying to do a lot of gerrymandering compared to what the current map is today. Like we're moving things around and they're not contiguous, and I don't know. That's, like I said, I didn't really look at consensus data when I did my map, and I know it's hard to believe, but I did that on purpose. So in my mind, I know I wasn't gerrymandering, and I know I wasn't trying to do anything for political or by ethnicity reasons. My map was what it was. I look at the county as a contiguous land formation, and I'm trying to look at these districts and try to make them more contiguous. And I think that we were, just because the current map is the way it is doesn't necessarily mean it was right either. So I know the new map looked, or the map that we had originally proposed looked like a lot of the claims were there were gerrymandering, a lot of, we were splitting up districts and doing all these other things. And that was the case. There was some areas that was happening, but it's going to happen anywhere if we make any change, just flat out. I mean, you look at right now, look at Leonardtown, look at where it currently is today, look at your map now, all those people are going to change. I don't know.
To me, the map really reflects two major things. One, balance the numbers as best we can, by staying within the 10%, and public input, acting on public input. And I'm comfortable with that.
And so the reason why, in keeping with, keeping communities of interest as a common approach, the extension of 1, because 2's absorption of that 235 north portion and that portion of 4, that shoots 2's numbers up through the roof, way out of tolerance, which is the reason why 3 absorbed that northern quadrant of 2, and 1 extended waterfront, water access, water view type communities on that southern portion, similar community types, communities of interest. Again, there's no easy way about this, but trying to keep a common theme that met the directive and is reflective of public input.
Well, the current map has the better numbers than your edits.
Correct, but this has us within tolerance, right? This exceeds the directive, right? 9.9%, we meet the directive. This exceeds the directive.
I mean, the census data has a margin of error on it anyway.
Correct.
Once we're within the margin of error, we can't get closer. So they could be actually the same.
And several people at the forums mentioned that, yes, the numbers are important, but it's really about the people.
Eric, can you pull it out so you see the whole map? Well, Chair sees it, of course, it's not the map I voted for, but it is better than the old map. It is balanced because of the overbalance of District 4 with those borders that you found, Eric. So you can't win everything every day, but this is better than the original map. So I know John has a schedule. I would propose or a motion, or do I hear a motion? I can do both, but do I hear a motion to
I don't want to
take this map?
I move that we take this map to the next step, which is fine tuning.
All right. So I would just edit that a little. If I would say the motion could be to adopt this as a working draft and then we can publish it on, or put it on board docs as the working draft with the anticipate, and leave it at that. And we will make.
What he said.
I'll take it.
All those in favor say aye.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, ayes carry. So I think that's it for tonight, John, unless you have something else to.
The only thing is, if you do want to get into more commentary on, I think you all have done a sufficient amount to get us started. What I would expect next time is, I don't think it will be so much the boundaries as when I go and synthesize and write up our version of that one-page redistricting plan, probably for the sake of a more substantive record. I want to go into more detail than the last redistricting board did and get a little bit more into the rationale. But I think next week anticipate quibbling over word choice and factors and which ones motivated each members of the board's personal decision. That's looking ahead, what I would anticipate the bulk of the discussion next week will be about. But like I said, I will synthesize the comments I've gleaned tonight. We will publish that on board docs and send that out to the board, along with a geographical boundaries that we've adopted as in a working draft tonight.
John, quick question. So that discussion is for the rationale that supports the map that we send to the county commissioners. Do we have the opportunity at the next meeting while we're all here and it's fresh in our minds? And I don't know if this would go as part of that, but almost like a retrospective lessons learned for the next board. So if we have suggestions of approach and things to keep in mind and process, Is that something that we could capture in some capacity?
I've given thought to that as well. This, obviously, this only happens once every 10 years, and there's not a lot of institutional memory between one and the other. I don't know if doing that, particularly when we might be pressed for time, next meeting would be the way to do it, but certainly what would the option would do would be to, as individuals, even if not a board, write memorandums to the file, write lessons learned, anything you want to leave behind for the next board. We can do that, and certainly that is a memorandum to the file, is something I intend to do as well.
Thanks.
I believe that's all the matters I would bring to the board's attention tonight.
If I could jump in, so what I will do for the board, if this sounds good to you, is that I will take this version and put it onto the version map, which is public, and propagate out to the other public maps. I will also make each of your own personal maps to match this, so that if over the next week you want to play and tweak the map for yourself, you'll have the starting point. And if you get too far in one direction, and easier if you just want it reset, just send me an email, and I can reset it as many times as you like. So I don't.
Thanks, Aaron.
We don't do ethnic data.
I do whatever the board instructs me to do.
I'm fine with that.
We didn't use race in our maps.
Yeah, I'm not using race.
Well, we don't.
I'm not going down that road.
I think what he's asking is, we don't have that in this software. We have total population, registered voters over 18. But I think you could, on the side, run that data similar to what we did for the previous map.
It's up to the board. If the board wants to consider race and any other factors, political party affiliation, anything else, request it, put it up there, but if not, I would suggest leaving it the way it is.
Do not want that, because we didn't use that.
I'm a little confused. I thought the purpose of this is what we've presented at the public forum, which is just to show what the ethnic breakdown was of the precincts as they're going to be in this current map. Not that it's being used in the map at all, but just to show people what the ethnic breakdown is.
I'm not opposed to it, as it'll be public knowledge.
I guess there's two questions.
Yeah.
The data exists. I can come up with the chart that shows the demographics for this. So that would be one thing. Do you want that produced and made public? The second question would be, I can also put that data into your map version so that you have access to that as you play with the map over the next week. That's I view those as two separate things, and I would need instruction from you guys on one or the other, yes or no for either of those.
We haven't used anything but total population to date, so to change it at the very end, I don't know if that's beneficial to anybody, but I'm not opposed to making it public knowledge.
I'll plead ignorance on this one, and this is a handicap of my at times limited knowledge, but I believe the way this would shake out, regardless of whether or not the board decides to weigh that as a factor and use it and publish it, I believe that if any member of the public submits an information request, that information being available, we are legally bound to provide that anyways. So I think probably if I'm reading the currents correctly, is this board does not intend or want to, a majority of it, to use race as a factor. We don't put it on board docs, we don't associate it with that meeting, but any member of the public can request that information and will be legally bound to provide it anyways.
I mean, John, whatever map, that data is going to be there at the end.
Right.
And they can find out at the end, but we don't use that in what we build. We got our blinders on. I'm not using that. No one else is using that.
And I think if that's the feelings, if you're speaking for the board, then I think the appropriate thing to do right now is leave it off board docs and invite any members of the public to submit an information request.
It's the same thing with, the percentage of Republicans and Democrats. Now, I saw some stuff that was presented to the board that actually had that information in there from a Mr. Foster. I mean, actually, that's on the agenda. I mean, people can look that up. It's on the agenda. His map would not only have changed the whole county by putting, I think it was District 1 is now up where our new proposed, up here where we had our proposed, he had 3 and District 4 down where District 1 is. So for that alone, that was going to impact the whole county. But there's other data in there where there is percent of Republicans and Democrats that are in that database. It's Redistricting.org. It also has broken out race in there too. I mean, that's on the agenda. We could bring it up, but people can see that. We did not use that.
Now, I agree that it was brought in at public commenting, but if the board does not consider it is not going to depend upon that as a factor going forward, my advice would be to let things stand as they are right now.
I'm just saying, we did not use it, both race and we've been accused, 8 times of gerrymandering in all these public forums. We did not use that, okay? But end product, you can, I mean, the data is going to be there. And of course, they can get it with a FOIA, get it. But again, when you generate a map, you don't look at race. And we don't, and we did not.
So I believe we've covered everything.
I have nothing nothing more that I would review with the board at this time.
Motion to adjourn, do I hear?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourn, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. We are adjourned.